Qualified immunity has hit too close to home, huh? You think you guys should have pulled in the reins a long time ago? Like when those called Black Americans kept yelling from the rooftop what was going on in their communities, police using lethal force when they didn't have to, instead of coming in and extinguishing the fire, they added to the flames with gasoline and dynamite. That should have been a time that you say, you know what, we really need to look into this. Because, each decade can't be saying the same thing. Check this out, and I'll be back.
I stand up for my girl, Renee Good.
Hey, welcome back, everyone who is returning. New folks, thank you for showing up. And we would appreciate it if you check out the whole entire video. Let's go on. Okay, what encouraged me to do this video is an email that came to my inbox that said, Congress is debating the possible consequences for ICE and even NOM after Renee Gooding's unaliving. I was like, what? You guys know how to move fast when you want to, and you know how to walk slower than molasses in a snowstorm when it comes to Black Americans. We have demanded an anti-Black bill for how long? And what you guys do? You say, next. Then when Asians came along, you said, sure, we can do that for you. What else would you need? Or what else can we do for you? How long you guys think you're going to keep doing this? That's what I would like to know. How long do you guys keep needing to see? How long do you need to keep seeing things blow up in your face when you do things against us? You like it? You like when things backfire? When you keep intentionally doing things to us? Okay, now here's the thing. You saw that video, right? That little clip. That's on, what is it? TikTok. Having George Floyd say some things that I'm sure this man wouldn't have said. You guys called this man every name but a child of God. Blamed him for his death. Now you're comparing him to Good. I never saw George Floyd jump in the vehicle or drive in a vehicle, told to stop, and continued on. I didn't see that happen with George Floyd. So anyway, here's the thing. You guys think you should have been demanding that qualified immunity be removed or revoked a long time ago? You think that these police would be so quick to use their firearms if they didn't have qualified immunity? And don't just say it's ICE agents. This has been going on for decades and centuries in this country. And the main people who have been at the end of that gun are those called Black Americans. I don't want to hear nothing about no damn black on black crime, because since all this is being exposed, folks, my people are questioning the whole black on black crime thing. Like, was the black on black crime committed by, which there's no such thing, but was the crime within the Black community being committed by melanated immigrants? Just like we're finding out, or people are reporting that the kingpins in this country, a lot of them were melanated immigrants. So save it, because there's crime in every community by every group and ethnicity. Now I want you guys to listen to this right quick, right fast.
When the car moved a little bit and y'all said, I guess it was justifiable. Well, damn, how you feel now? Oh, now I had to unalive this person with 38 shots because I felt threatened. And y'all sat up there and said that was justified. Why are you complaining now? Y'all set the precedent. You see? Also, that fallacy of compliance, a common rebuttal to police violence against black people is, well, they should have complied. Well, if you just comply, nothing is going to happen to you. See? And reports indicate that this Renee Good lady was surrounded by unmarked, plainclothes federal agents, and she may have been confused, she may have been terrified. Now, when black people panic or do not immediately understand aggressive commands, we get labeled as non-compliant and deserving unaliving. And Renee Good's death proves that confusion is now a capital offense. Because if compliance didn't save a white woman from being unalived for trying to drive away, it's not about compliance, it's all about the officer's impulse to dominate. We've been telling y'all about that, and now they didn't call this woman a domestic terrorist. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, she labeled Good's actions domestic terrorism. That's that language they use on us. So now the state is applying that terrorist label to a suburban white woman driving in a Honda Pilot. Y'all, you sit there and justify this stuff and you set a precedent, it's going to hit you sooner or later. You see? And that whole split-second decision shield, see, we're seeing that immediate deployment of that whole split-second decision defense to shield the ICE agent. See, that legal shield was fortified by qualified immunity in cases involving black victims, because the court and the public accepted that an officer's subjective fear overrides an innocent citizen's right to life. There's now no legal mechanism to hold that agent accountable. See, the legal precedents set to protect officers who unalive black people are now the same precedents that's going to let her killer go free.
So I was on YouTube today and I was looking at some videos and I saw the video of him talking about what happened in Minnesota with Good, and I thought I'd check it out, and I heard him say what I have intended to say in my video. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna put a little insert of what he said in my video. But let's go on. Some argue that more white people are victims of police brutality than other groups. I say if that's the case, if that's true, why hasn't white America demanded the removal of qualified immunity? Can you answer that question? Is it the same as when school used to be free or college used to be free, and then when they realized that black Americans were utilizing college, you guys made it where they had to pay, or you added fees to college? Is that what it is? If it's any way possible that black Americans would benefit from police officers not having qualified immunity anymore, black Americans will have some kind of relief. People will start having to be accountable for their actions and also think twice before they pull out their gun. If you suspect that black Americans will have some kind of relief, you say, hell no, we just gonna have to deal with it. If some of our people, get unalived, we can take it. Is that the mentality? Lethal force and police brutality will catch our attention all the time. I'm talking particularly black Americans, because we are so used to seeing it happen to our people and nothing changes. We've demanded an anti-black bill to be passed, but they gave it to Asians instead. This country has a dark history when it comes to ignoring our rights and taking our lives with a lack of accountability. That word that I told you I hate and I cannot stand, because the ones who are always screaming accountability are the ones who don't take accountability. It's only when the world sees it, like what happened with George Floyd, that's when Congress or the political arena wants to pretend like they actually give a care. Like I said, they have the nerves to keep comparing Good to George Floyd. And just like they compared Charlie Kirk to Martin Luther King. Charlie Kirk sat on his platform and degraded Martin Luther King. And then after his death, you turned around and compared Kirk to Martin Luther King. My question is, what kind of sick mentality does this country have that you think you have a right? You get to talk down on our people and accomplishments they made. Again, like I said, Martin Luther King not only helped his people, but he tried to help poor white America. Why do you think you get to talk down on our people and our accomplishments, and then turn around when you want to, when it's convenient for you, when you think it's going to help your matter, compare them to the people that you despised? When Martin Luther King was alive, that generation of people who witnessed them couldn't stand him. Ask your grandparents. Ask them how they really felt about Martin Luther King. Then you will understand, partly understand, why we hated when he was being compared to Charlie Kirk. George Floyd was handcuffed in police custody. You remember that? Anyone who remember the video, remember they had him in the back of the police vehicle, remember? Can anybody tell me how Floyd ended up outside of that police vehicle once he was put inside and on the ground, where he ended up being unalive or murdered? Can anyone explain that? Why was he taken out of the vehicle instead of being taken to the police station? So that's what we saw that happened with George Floyd. Good was given an order, whether you guys like ICE or not, they are a part of law enforcement. She was given an order. Remember how you guys say we should have complied, our people should have complied and obeyed the law? Okay. She was given an order and she chose to not heed it. So then you know what happened. That's the issue a lot of us have. The hypocrisy, the one-sidedness, where it seemed like you guys will go to your grave making sure we obey the law. But then when it comes to someone else who is not us, you come up with all the excuses in the world and let somebody say anything different than what you believe or felt should have happened, you get angry. So I was talking to a family member today and I said, this is how I see it. What happened to Good can be equivalent to someone getting shot in the back by the police. When you're fleeing, when you're trying to evade arrest and you turn and you run and you still get shot in the back. I said that could be equivalent to what happened to her. She was in her vehicle, turned her tires away from the agents to leave. And according to the Justice Department, this is what the Justice Department says. Law enforcement and correctional officers of the Department of Justice may use deadly force only when necessary. So when she was trying to evade a direct order, she posed no threat to that agent, but yet he still took her life. That is the point we have been trying to make. When our people pose no threat, when they have no weapons, when they're not in a car seeming like they're going to run you over and you take their lives, you find every reason to put it on us. Now you want us to march out in the streets to help you so that there can be some of my people who are shot down in the street like Good? Because that's what they would do. I'm going to show you the psychological games these people love to play. We are the only group these people try to call on to when they want more support and a louder voice, because they know we bring a louder voice and there's more action when we get involved. And there's also negative action when we get involved. So y'all want us laying up in the street. You want my people laying up in the street like Good. You want my people laid up in the car like Good. It's not going to happen. Like I said, you guys had ample, you guys, if you had chose to let go of your racism and biasness and prejudice for a second and listen to us when we kept telling y'all what was going on in our communities, what was going on in our streets, in the streets, when they kept using lethal force and police brutality and they didn't have to. You chose to turn a blind eye and you chose to clog up your ears. If you stood up and demanded that these police be accountable for their actions, they wouldn't be taking your children and your family out now. I've seen videos where people are saying Good was treated like a black person. I'm going to play this clip. First of all, I'm going to show you how they are trying to mind F us, Black America. I already know we on code, but look how they always trying to mind F us. Why don't you go and ask these Asians and Indians and Hispanics and other groups to come and help you? You have been the most nastiest to us. Why do you think we're going to come help you? So I see an email past couple of days. I've been seeing emails where they say Renee Nicole Good's Vimeo account shows she supported Black Lives Matter and paid her mother's rent and bills. Why is that news? Why are you telling us or telling the country that she supported Black Lives Matter when a lot of Black Americans don't support Black Lives Matter? Because if you ask our communities today what Black Lives Matter did for us when they got billions of dollars in donations, what does that mean for us? What does her supporting Black Lives Matter have to do with us? I'm going to show you how what happened in Minnesota shooting is linked to lack of accountability when it comes to law enforcement in America. How many of you folks who are angry today are angry enough to demand that qualified immunity is immediately removed from all law enforcement today? You're not going to do that. You know why? Because your anti-black sentiments are so strong that you rather deal with some police being rogue, out of control, than seeing them accountable, prosecuted, and jailed for their actions. Those who are so outraged today, you didn't give a lick of care when it came to Massey and Breonna Taylor. And when you really think about it, you'll be like, well, hell, we very well can't have all our good guys in blue suffer because of a bad few apples. The anger and outrage would completely dissipate. Think about this. If you unbiasedly reeled in unnecessary lethal force, if you taken necessary action against police brutality, demanding true accountability and not just suspension with or without pay or transfer to another department so that the accuser can continue their reign of terror, this would not be happening and they wouldn't find reasons to justify it. So your lack of actions or your lack of care always comes back to you. That's why we've elected to stand back until you deal with your deep-seated anti-black hatred and hypocrisy. We are not going to help you fight your causes while you blatantly supported or stayed silent when we yelled and screamed from the rooftops about ours. A long and documented history exists of police using unnecessary and often lethal force against Black Americans, with modern policing in the U.S. tracing its origins back to the slave patrol. Why is it so hard for you guys to admit that? Is it shame? Is it pride? Let me go on. Created to establish terror and control over enslaved people, this pattern of excessive force, including unlawful arrest, physical assault, and homicides, has been a consistent issue across decades and has served as a catalyst for civil unrest. Here are examples. I'm about to give you guys some examples of police terror in our community. Early 20th century. In cities like Chicago between 1910 and 1920, Black Americans were disproportionately represented among victims of death by police frequently shot by officers to hinder escape. for minor offenses like loitering or purse snatching. Chicago in 1970s and the 1980s. Between 1972 and 91, Commander John Burge and other members of the Chicago Police Department tortured over 120 people. 118 of them were Black Americans using electrical shocks, suffocation, and beatings to force them into false confessions. Many victims were later found innocent, but the officers were never criminally charged for the torture. 1980, Miami, Liberty City. The police killing of an unarmed Black American man ignited 3 days of riots, resulting in 18 deaths and extensive property damage. 1991, you all are aware of what happened to Rodney King. They beat that man like he was running off a running and trying to escape from a plantation. That happened in 1991. And then the riots, what happened was it was a combination. Rodney King and Latasha Harlins. I was temporarily linked up with, or briefly linked up with Denise Harlins, and I was helping her with her charge against the city for what they allowed to happen, which soon Judge Do basically executing that little young girl. And I would go to the court with them. I even did a panel. I had a whole production, and we were doing we did an interview of Latasha Harlins and other people who worked on the case with her. And I wish I did not. This is back in 92, I believe. And yeah, it was a lot. I was involved with a lot of stuff. I told y'all. Y'all don't even know. Y'all. Okay, let's go on. In 1991, New York City, 4 plainclothes NYPD officers fired 41 shots at I don't even know how to Amadou Delio, an unarmed African immigrant, in his apartment doorway, mistaking his wallet for a gun. The officers were acquitted of all charges. I don't think I ever heard of that case. Now, here are the high-profile cases that happened in the 21st century. Several high-profile incidents involving unnecessary lethal force against Black Americans have drawn widespread attention and fueled nationwide protests. Eric Gardner, 2014. You know how he died. Officers pinned that man down like he was some kind of raging lunatic, some kind of on a murderous spree. He kept saying he couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe. No officers were indicted. Michael Brown, 2014. He was shot by a white officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Led to unrest after a grand jury did not indict the officer. Tamir Rice, 12 years old, 2014, was out playing with a toy gun. He was killed by Cleveland police. No indictments followed. Walter Scott, 2015, shot in the back multiple times by a North Charleston officer while fleeing a traffic stop. Bystander video was key evidence in the officer's murder conviction. See, you're not supposed to be shooting people when they're fleeing. Freddie Gray, 2015, sustained a fatal spinal injury while being transported in a Baltimore police van after his arrest. His death was ruled a homicide, but the 6 officers charged were clear. So, how can you determine that it was homicide, but then the officers are not accountable for their actions? See what I'm talking about? Castile, 2016, killed during a traffic stop in Minnesota after informing the officer he had a licensed firearm and reaching for his ID. Officer was acquitted of manslaughter. Jacob Blake, 2020, Wisconsin, who was shot 7 times in the back and left paralyzed. Breonna Taylor, 2020, shot and killed in her apartment during a no-knock raid. Her boyfriend fired a warning shot, leading police to return fire. No officers were charged. We know what happened with George Floyd in 2020. Did you guys check out that video I did talking about the lynchings were rituals? I knew something spiritual took place on the day George Floyd was murdered. I'm going to tell you how. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what happened 2 days later. My family and I were preparing to have like it was like a get together celebration at our house, at our home. So I was in the living room. I can't tell you what I was doing, but I know I kept hearing squawking. It was like a large volume, a high volume of squawking. And it was going so loud and so long that it caught my attention. I was like, what is going on? You know when you're preoccupied, you can hear something, but it's not really drawing your attention until it continues. And you like, what? You realize you're hearing something. So I looked out our window. And we had these power lines that, are right next to our home. And I kid you not, it was about 20 or more crows on top of the power line, right directly above our house, our home. I said, and immediately it made me nervous. I was like, oh my God. Because I know, and I've been told, and it's been proven true, that when you see large numbers of crows like that, that's usually a sign of death, right? Too many times I've seen that and then something happened. So I called my family and I was like, girl, look out the window. I don't think they got a chance to see it. When I thought to get my phone to record it, they had started dispersing. I felt a little nervous, not for me, but I knew something bad happened or was going to happen. This was the day he was unalive. So later on that week, because we had the get together. God, was it on a weekend? Whatever day he was unalive, that's the day we had it. So a couple of days after that, I kept hearing things. George Floyd. I kept hearing his name, but I never paid attention to what they were talking about. Till one day, I saw black men, I saw black women like talking about him and crying. I was like, what the hell is going on? So one day I heard a person kind of describing what they saw in the video. I said, oh, I don't want to see that. But my point is, that day that all those crows were on that wire by our home, above our house, that is the day he was unalived. So let's go on. Sonia Massey, 2024. Sonia Massey case involves the 2024 fatal shooting of 36-year-old Sonia Massey by County Sheriff Deputy Sean Grayson in Illinois. Stemming from a 911 call Massey made about a prowler. Grayson, who fired multiple shots at Massey in her kitchen. Rodney Hinton, 25. Police shooting of Ryan Hinton. It was reports that Hinton was involved or a part of a crew who stole the vehicle. That's what they claim. He fled. Him and several people tried to flee the scene on foot, and he was shot in the back. Ryan Hinton was shot in the back, and then his father, Rodney Hinton, exacted revenge on a police officer and ran him down. Yeah. So those are a few cases, just only a few. It would take me too long to go through history to show you how many times police use unnecessary lethal force against my folks and got away with it, or seem to have gotten away with it. Can you imagine what kind of lives these people have who did this and then come with their little excuses and lies? They don't have peace, trust me. They might appear to have peace, but I guarantee you it's a lot of trouble in their household. But anyway, people, but that the purpose of this video was I want you guys to think about your actions or lack thereof. You know how you create a monster? Well, America created a monster, and it's called the police department. And no, I'm not saying every single officer is a monster, but the ones who are a monster, And the ones who aren't a monster, you guys are also accountable. The ones who aren't a monster and you know what these monsters are doing, are capable of doing, and you're silent, you're part of the problem. Family members, you know you got some members on the police force and they're rogue and out of pocket, you're accountable too. And like I said, if you guys has nipped this in the bud, stop being racist and prejudiced and dealt with this, you wouldn't be upset and crying now. All right, folks, I'm out. Thank you for your time and attention and support. Sharing is caring. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.